brain is responsible for so much that happens to you. One of its main jobs is processing and responding to the information around you. In social psychology, this is known as social cognition. Let's break it down. Social cognition is a subtopic of social psychology that focuses on how people process, store, and apply information about other people and social situations. One of its main beliefs is that people, especially young children, learn by observing and modeling the behaviors of others. In our daily lives, we make decisions on a regular basis. What we should eat, if we can trust someone, if we should go to sleep, or sneak in one more hour of Netflix. The list goes on and on. If we carefully considered every possible outcome of these decisions and judgments, we would never get anything else done. To shorten the time it takes us to make these decisions, our brain uses several mental shortcuts. First, let's look at the false consensus effect. It is the tendency to overestimate how much other people agree with us. It is a false basis where we think our own attitudes, behaviors, etc. are common and that others must also feel the same way, when in fact, this may or may not be true. Let's look at an example. Let's say your best friend asked you to go to the store to get some candy, but didn't tell you what kind to get. How would you choose which candy to buy? Instead of looking at every different type of candy in the store, you would most likely pick out the candy you like and buy it for them. This is the false consensus effect. And now, let's get to know the second mental shortcut, known as the framing effect. The framing effect refers to the way a problem is framed, which influences whether we decide to take a risk or play it safe. Let's look at another example.
Well, I realize you must be disappointed in your diagnosis. I know your treatment options don't look well, but I can offer you a new drug. But I have to admit that it only works 50%. Well, I realize you must be a little bit disappointed, but we made a fantastic progress in the area, and I'm happy to offer you the new drug, which has proven to work 50% of the time.
Heuristics are mental shortcuts that help us save time and energy. The availability heuristic is the mental shortcut which helps make a decision based on how easy it is to think of examples when making decisions and judgments. For example, after seeing many news stories about tiger attacks, you may judge that the likelihood of this event occurring is greater, even if you live in an area where there is no tiger population. Representative heuristic is a mental shortcut which helps us make decisions by comparing information to our mental prototypes. Meet Joe and his buddy Jim. Which person do you think belongs to a wrestling league? Most of us would likely guess Joe because he fits our mental prototype of a wrestler. Unfortunately, many examples of representative heuristics involve some succumbing to stereotypes. We might assume that all girls are only concerned about physical appearances or that all religious people are homophobic. Social schemas are scripts or expectations in individual forms about how things operate within their environment. A schema is a cognitive system which helps us organize and make sense of information. Once we organize our perceptions, it is time to interpret them. There are several contributing factors to our interpretation: relationship satisfaction, involvement with others, past experience, assumptions, expectations, knowledge, and self-concept. Role schemas help people understand the social context with which he or she is engaged and adjust accordingly to the demands of the situation. For instance, a physician displays his professional role in the hospital.
Hello, how are you today?
Good.
How can I help you, sir, today?
I got headache.
Oh, let's have a look.
But likely behaves differently while on vacation.
Woohoo! I have vacation! Finally!
But often a question arises about factors that can influence our social cognition. Because perception is based off of personal characteristics and experiences, culture falls into that category. Often, the different cultures in our world can be divided into two categories, Western and East Asian. Many studies have been done to discover the differences in how these cultures think and process information. For example, in one study, Indians and Americans were asked to describe the roots of one's actions. In results, the Indians described more situational attributes, whereas the Americans described more personal attributes. The conclusion that comes out of these studies were that Western cultures oriented towards individualism, whereas East Asian cultures have a more collective view of people.